Hi, I'm Dropser. You've probably never heard of me, or if you have, you've probably never heard my voice. Anyway, I welcome you to this video, and today we're going to tackle how to deal with, more advanced ways of how to think about camera work in TRACKMANIA, especially in relation to FStunt genre. So what you need to understand about cameras in general is that the sole purpose is to provide you with as much information as possible in a way that is actually useful. So for example, first of all, we will take a look at the very standard assets of Fullspeed. That will be a simple loop, a extended loop, a regular vol ride, a turnover, and a tube. We're gonna move to the more complicated stuff later. Anyway, what you are trying to achieve is that you need to change the camera in order to provide as much information which helps you navigate the car in a way that allows you to be as precise as possible. So for example, if you drive a looping in Cam 1, it's obviously not gonna go very well because you won't see shit. You won't see anything. If you go Cam 2, it's gonna be a little bit better, but it's not gonna be ideal anyway because you don't see what's happening in front of you. So what your point is in order for you to be allowed to do more precise motions, you need to actually allow the player to actually see anything or something. And you need it. You need to do it in a coherent and cohesive manner, right? So like, as long as you're driving on the road or something, this is perfectly fine. This provides you with all the information you need. You are trying to be as close to Randsteins, you are trying to drive on turbos, yada yada yada. But once you enter a looping, you need to swap to camera 3 in order to be able to see the line and how to deal with it within the looping, right? And then you need to swap back out of it. So what you need to do is, in order to allow some sort of driver freedom per se, what you need to do is to activate the camera at the very last moment, or the very last moment in which it would be necessary to activate it. In the looping's case, and in general when it comes to Fullspeed, that will be the end of a quarter pipe or quarter pipe-esque blocks. In order to, at this point you absolutely need to be in camera 3. So you need to have a switch here. However, if somebody chooses to deliberately and on their own activate it earlier, they should still be able to do it up to their own volition. So in other words, you need to put it right here because at this point it's absolutely necessary. However, if somebody prefers to do it before, they are still allowed to do it manually. So it should look kind of like this. It's very simple stuff. When you go to the media tracker, where's the thing? Oh, there we go. You move right here. You go right here. You name this Cam 3 switch, for example, and you add custom camera, obviously. Internal is camera 3. Do whatever length you want, and then you need to add another switch, and you put it at the very last point in which you would be needing the camera 3. You name this cam 3 off, and you leave it empty, because by leaving it empty, once you travel across the sequence block, it's instantly going to turn off whatever sequence was happening prior to this. So when we go back to the map, it's gonna do exactly what I've shown you. You're gonna drive, it's gonna swap, and then it's gonna swap back. As simple as that. Same applies for extended loopings. It's essentially the same thing. Again, if you stay in camera 1 or camera 2, you won't see shit. You're gonna crash, it's gonna be absolutely useless. So in order to tackle this, at the very first point, at the very last point, you switch the cameras. It goes the same. Cam 3 switch. You move right here. That's where it starts. If you want to make extra sure just in case, just extend it. And once you go to cam off, you do the same exact thing. Once we move to wall rides, it's again very trivial. You just go, and the second you enter the quarter pipe, you swap the camera, and the second you exit, you swap off. And you want to cover the entire length of entrance, you know, in order to avoid somebody missing the sequence block. Just in case, maybe. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Turnover is kind of like a combination of a wall ride and a looping, because it's got a looping exit, as you can see, but a wall ride entrance. So you put your knowledge together, turn cam on, turn cam off, as simple as that. Go here, cover the entrance, move away, sequence on the exit, there we go. And last thing is a pipe block, and as you can expect, it's not any different, right? You swap it on here, and here is swap back. On and off, up to necessity again. You need to, you know, be aware of what your line is in order to be able to deal with this. Okay, that's the basics, right? So let's move to some more advanced stuff, since this video is supposed to be focusing mainly on FStunt tackling of cameras. So the first thing we have here is a standard FStunt wall ride. It works both ways, again depending on speed. This is a bit more complicated wall ride. Then we've got an auto flip. Then we've got a different variation of an auto flip, which is however more stunty. And then we've got a complicated variation of an auto flip, which leads into a wall ride. So let's start with the simple stuff, obviously. As you can expect, you need to think about this block as if it were a wall ride, right? So in order to think about it as a wall ride, you start the camera here, and you need to find the very last block in which you would absolutely need to have camera 3 activated, which would be probably around here, and that's where you would place the switch off, right? So if you showcase it, cam 3, you go down, that's a terrible performance, anyway, cam 3, cam 1, as simple as that. So you go in, cover the entrance, and you go here, and cover the exit, just to make sure. Yeah, this kind of depends typically on what the exit is. Since I am confident the car will have the trajectory to easily follow the chicane that's following, because it's in the direction we're going, I would probably do double block. However, in case, for example, if you were trying to travel in a more straight line, perhaps you would just want to have one block here in order for the player to really see what's happening at this point. So for example, you would be in cam 3 here, and you need to actually see what's happening at this point so that you can see that you are traveling some other direction so that you can react to it. Same goes here, except this is a more complicated variant. The entrance is the same, obviously there's nothing to talk about really, you swap it on, but the exit is a bit different, because at this point you need to be able to transition from here to here. In order to do that, you need to have camera 3 here, but once you are stable on the ground you're landing to, you would already want to be in camera 1, and so that you can optimally manage your car trajectory and continue with the map, right? So what you would do is the standard, obviously, that's the start, and the cam off would be somewhere around here, expectedly, just to make sure you want to cover, you know, a bigger portion, so that once your car travels through it, it will absolutely activate when necessary. So when you go into practice, you just go, this is where it activates, and as you're exiting, it jumps off. Alternatively, you could potentially move it to this block in case the angle was unstable enough, if you needed the camera 3 to manage, but like it depends again on what's following in the map. Then we've got basic auto flips. Auto flips are effectively just flips that happen without much management, it just works. You don't need to do anything, and especially if you switch to cam 3 here, it's just gonna make you nauseous and you won't see shit anyway. Which is ultimately the reason why we're doing cameras, right? We want to allow the player to see as much stuff as possible with as little effort as possible. Different thing would be this variation of an auto flip, because you can see it's very blind. You don't really see anything, and it kind of depends on you know, your management and your trajectory reading and building style and yada yada, so that you can manage it. You could technically play this in cam 3, however, again, yeah, it's not nearly as legible compared to camera 1, so you really need to think about what's really happening with your trajectory and how well you've really calculated what you're trying to do, right? So if this were the case, I just wouldn't put any cameras here, because you have much more control over the direction and the spin of your car if you see it in camera 1, so that you can, you know, employ proper air control and or air braking. So I just wouldn't put cameras here, but you may want to do it if the flip is a little bit different. Now the last thing is this combination, because this combination takes the auto flip to next level and chains it into a wall ride. If I don't miss, obviously. That would be this. As you can see, I would want to play this section in cam 1, because if I go cam 3, the car is just gonna spin around and it's not gonna give me any information whatsoever. So how to tackle this? You go to cam 3 switch, you obviously need to see the entrance, and especially since the direction you need to be very precise with the transition from here to here. And because you need to be very precise, you need to be in cam 3, because if you're in cam 3 it's gonna give you more information than being in cam 1 and seeing the car in a vertical spin, essentially, which is just not gonna give you any information about what's gonna happen furthermore. However, once you actually do the transition, which is at this point, you wanna switch it off so that you don't, you know, puke yourself. So this is where a switch off would be. And then once you enter the wall ride, you're gonna follow up with another switch either here or potentially here, maybe. It really depends again on your route calculation, etc. But this would be the standard. And then you obviously need to switch the camera off again. And once we go back into practice, it's gonna do the exact thing. Right, the cam is gonna switch on right here because it gives us as much information. It's gonna switch off, and then it's gonna switch on again, and then it's gonna switch off again. Perfect. That will be the more advanced stuff. Now let's get into the actually complicated nitty-gritty. In order to be able to do this in more complicated stunts, you obviously need to understand the trajectory, and you need to be actively thinking about what kind of information you really want or need to convey in order to allow maximum huntability, so that you can be as precise as possible. So in this case, we've got a sideways flip into a combo of a sculpture which chains onto a, tube-esque exit. What you need to do here is, as you could see, what I was doing in camera 1 is not giving me any information. So what you need to do is to think about this block as if it were a start of a quarter pipe. So you actually want to put the cam 3 here, keep it going through here, and deactivate it here. What you can alternatively do is you would just deactivate it here and activate it here again. However, since you are upside down and the spin is not in a way that will make you genuinely nauseous, it's kind of, redundant. And since you can see where you are aiming if you're in cam 3 and you want to land here, cam 3 is gonna give you the most information. So you would go like this goes to cam 3, that's perfectly fine, and it's gonna go outside of it. That's obviously not a great performance, but yeah, you can catch my drift, right? So you go like this, and you jump out of it, whatever. It's obviously more hard, more difficult to tackle, so especially as I'm, commentating on it, I'm not really focusing properly. Oh, yeah, whatever, I've got to slow down, but you can catch my drift. So what you would do here probably would be, you go here, this is essentially the quarter pipe, and this would be the switch off. If the spin was, in a different direction, especially in a way that would, turn the axis from the front to the back of the car, you wouldn't want to be in cam 3 because it wouldn't be giving you enough information which you need in order to land properly. However, since it's spinning on the left to right axis, if you observe the car, in that case, it's much better to just, keep it in cam 3 through the duration. Now let's move on to this funny thing. This is a flip which follows into regular road. So you need to switch it on here and switch it off here. So simple stuff. Again, what you would want to do is activate the camera here, right? And then you need to deactivate it once you actually crash this block. So it would supposedly be around here, because once you actually crash the block and you need to see where you are crashing, you need to have control over your car so that you can then manage the air control right after, because it's a spin that requires air control in order to land properly. So you're going like this, the cam switches on and it switches off. Same goes here. This is a fairly advanced flip, so you need to understand what's happening. It's again a sideways loop, and this is just gonna make you nauseous. So it kind of depends on your spin and on what you are really trying to achieve. You could technically go cam 1, however, you have more control over the angle and you can still see where you are actually landing. So it would technically be better to just stay in cam 3. However, depending on your spin, you might wanna switch it off and then switch it on again. And I keep air braking because I'm an idiot. Anyway. Come on. Yeah, that's sketchy as fuck. Anyway, let's give it one more shot just for demonstration purposes. There we go. Sweet. And then you would... Oh, okay. But yeah, anyway. Again, you would treat this part as a regular looping. You activate the camera here. Then, depending on the spin, you either switch it off or keep it here. And then you would switch it off again, or for the first time, depending on what the case for your spin would be. That's kind of like the baselines. You need to be actively thinking about your spin. Now let's take a look at a very advanced stunt, which is also very inconsistent. So if you end up building something like this, you first of all need to be actively thinking about what's happening to your car, and secondly, if you actually put something like this into your map, do you expect to have your points deduced for the competition if it ends up being unstable like this one? Okay, so anyway, it goes kind of like this. That was surprisingly good. Anyway, as you could see, you kind of need to see your car in cam 1 here and throughout to around this height, so that you can actually see the spin of your car and that you can do air control properly. However, once you reach this height, more or less, you want to already be switching to camera 3. So what you would be doing would most likely be you do not activate the cam 1 here, the cam 3 here, because you actually need to see in cam 1 here. However, once you reach a certain height, which would be, let's say, kinda around here, you would want to activate camera 1 and treat it as a looping, and then you would tackle the exit like so, obviously. Once we get back to it, because you can see if we go in cam 3, this gets really messy. You don't see shit. Alternatively, what you could do, there we go, that activates. Okay, you can see where you are actually going, kind of. Alternatively, what you could be doing in case you really need the cam 3 upon the entrance, what you could do is do the cam 3 like around here-ish, or perhaps even here, and then once you crash and do the transition, you want to have control over it, right? So it would deactivate around here, I guess, perhaps here. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so let's switch to cam 3. I mean, I guess, more or less, again, you need to be actively thinking about what's happening with the car. So I suppose what maybe would be a better course of action would be moving this one to around here. That's a mess. But yeah, in this case it would probably be the best to just, you know, keep a little bit of leeway, see whatever the players prefer, and just you know, keep this segment empty. If one wants to be in cam 3, allow them to. If one wants to be in cam 1, allow them to. So there would be no segment. However, you absolutely need to be in cam 3 at this point-ish. So that's where you would put the switch, and you absolutely need to be in cam 1 back again here at this point. So yeah, that's how you want to think about your camera work in advanced full speed stunt setting. You need to be thinking about the spin of your car, you need to be thinking about the places where you absolutely need to be in a certain camera in order to maximize huntability, and you need to enforce that with proper segmentation. You want to do that because if you want to allow players to have a little bit of freedom or ability to control the car or the cameras, you want them to be able to. So, for example, if instead of activating cam 3 here, you would activate it here, there would be less freedom. You don't need to be in cam 3 here, however you absolutely need to be in cam 3 here, so you want to enforce that through your camera work. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sure as hell gonna hope it's gonna be somewhat comprehensible, because I've never really recorded my voice ever before. And obviously I've got stage fright as well. I'm not really well spoken in English, as you can probably hear as well, since it's not my native language, and my microphone is non-existent. I'm recording this through a laptop microphone, so yeah. Anyway, again, hope you enjoyed, hope you've learned something. I will try to make this video as entertaining as possible and as, you know, information accumulated as possible, and I'll see how it goes, and then I'm gonna post it to the Discord server so that you can watch it. Okay, see ya!